So I think just to start off, because I thought it would be a really interesting question, is as a kind of a throwback, what does the term screen time look and mean for you, like right now, today's time?
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about this because obviously screen time now is kind of unavoidable because everything we do, almost apart from like reading and things like that, is attached to a screen. So if you like when I was a kid or something, it was like, I didn't grow up in the internet world, didn't have phones, things like that. So it was like my computer games or the TV. And so it was, screen time was actually just literally that was it. Whereas now, we're on our phones all the time, like tablets, laptops, gaming consoles, TV, Kindles, going to the shops, doing it on the screen there. It's just everything is on the screen. So I think screen time with us and what we educate and what we advise on people, it's about like a balance, and just sort of rethinking it that it's not always negative, and it's when it becomes harmful or repetitive or like that doom scrolling sort of stuff, that's when it can get bad. But I mean, screen time is great, right? Because there's so many positive things and it is the world we live in.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I was having a thought about it myself too, and I was thinking, all right, like screen time. I feel like, yeah, I mean, when I was growing up as well, like I think I had my first flip phone when I was like 12 or something, and it was just because
Yeah,
my mom would go on like conferences, and I would be at home or in a hotel room by myself, and she wanted some way to contact me, right? So I mean, like
yeah,
strictly speaking, I'm not gonna text anybody. I wasn't really playing games on it. It was just like it was practically just something to call people with, you know.
yeah, yeah,
And I think
exactly,
now,
exactly
like
that.
it's completely changed, right? I mean, now it really is just it's everything, really. I mean, I'm receiving my emails on my phone. I'm calling
Mm.
people. I'm texting people. I'm sending photos to my friends and keeping up with my family. Like, there's so many different elements with it. So yeah, I mean,
Absolutely, yeah.
I think it's really difficult to kind of like say, oh well, yeah, like too much screen time is like some sort of like overarching bad, right? I think
Yeah.
it's exactly how you approach it that's going to be kind of interesting, and I think it's kind of what I want to jump in with you today with. But just to start off, I want to kind of have a bit of an intro. So, like, I guess, what's your background? Who are you? What are you working on? And then, yeah, I'll do the same.
Great. So, yeah, I'm Erica Thomton. I'm the chief executive of the Breck Foundation, which is a UK-wide online safety, online harms awareness educating charity. And we go into schools and deliver online harms training to young people ages from 4 right through to 18. And we do that by telling Breck's story, Breck Bednar's story. And Breck was actually like a major gamer. Like he loved gaming, loved tech, loved the internet, and he used to play on a gaming server. And unfortunately, sadly, he was tragically groomed on that server, and murdered. And so what we do is we tell the story of his life and try and raise awareness of where potentially his life could have been saved, and try and get young people to really see themselves in Breck. Um, so yeah, that's the charity. And my background is I've worked in the charity sector for well over a decade. Before that, I was in the police and worked with young offenders as well as adult offenders. And yeah, so it's brilliant to be leading this charity, and again back working with young people at the heart of it.
Yeah, that's great. And then obviously, I'm jumping back on the episode here without Jack this time, but I'm working for Play New Meta Academy, and it's just a youth organization. We host a lot of different classes, so kind of your kid likes gaming, they want to get involved, they don't know exactly what they want to do, whether it's 3D development, if it's game design, if it's content creation, or if it's just having a blast gaming and getting some of the community elements out of it. Yeah, that's kind of what we're helping and focusing on supporting. And we actually have a new facility just about to launch up in Milton Keynes, so we're really excited about that.
Great.
And then,
Oh,
yeah, I
I'm
mean,
so glad you're expanding.
yeah, no, absolutely. And then myself, Yeah, I mean, I started actually in higher education. So kind of a little bit more boring, I want to say, when it comes to marketing side of things. It was a lot of like, this is traditionally what we do, and that's kind of what we're going to continue to do for a while. And then, yeah, I made the switch over to gaming now and working with this company, and it's been really, really exciting. So, but yeah, just do all the communication stuff for the company at the moment. But to kick us off, so I wanted to kind of dive deeper a little bit more into what we were talking about with the screen time. From your perspective, how do you think it's kind of changed the way that you approach life? Kind of this additional screen time. I think I kind of mentioned, right? Like, kind of keeping up with family, sending messages, having that kind of connection with everybody all the time now, as opposed to what it used to be. How do you think that's kind of changed the way that people are forming friendships and kind of maintaining those friendships and that sort of thing?
Well, it's massively changed the way that we communicate, and in so many positive ways. So for me, for example, personally, like my family live 300-400 miles away. So if I want to talk to my parents, for example, I can FaceTime them and feel like I'm with them. And so it's things like that are like magical, really, that we're able to do that now. And families who are far apart from each other, who can, see their grandchild or, their family members really quickly and easily. The way I communicate with my children, like sending them messages, getting there, knowing where they are, being able to track them, them being able to track me. And I guess a really positive thing that comes from the foundation, but also for me personally, is for young people to be able to connect with people who they identify with. So potentially who they may not have been able to communicate with. So for example, I grew up in a really small seaside town up north, and I was gay, and at the time, like, if I'd wanted to connect with other young adults who were LGBTQ, like, that was almost nigh impossible in the late 90s. Whereas now, for a young person, a young adult, they can really find people that they connect with and who they identify with really easily. So it's totally shifted. And also, like, professionally, being able to do this podcast, but also, like I just said to you earlier, we launched an event yesterday, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without screen time, without access to my laptop, my phone, having a big, projector screen at the back, being able to play videos, being able to capture some fantastic moments with all these young people. Another example, we were supposed to have media there, and ITV couldn't make it, and so one of the comms person in the team, the partnership that we're working with, she was able to record lots of interviews of really important people that were there and capture that moment, and then last night, like, send it all over to the media really easily and quickly so that they can, chop it together and create a piece that's going to go out live, to the local area. And I think that's really special to be able to do that and communicate well. So it's really expanded our ability to connect and make friendships and to grow professionally. Also with our team, we're all remote, and as I said earlier, I've worked in the charity sector for a long time, and before we had things like Zoom or Microsoft Teams, your ability to recruit people, it was quite narrow. It was always like where the office was, right? So your talent pool was a lot smaller than it is now, and being able to recruit people who live, at the other side of the country and even in another country, and be able to get the right person for the job, because no longer do you need to greet and meet in an office. I mean, it's great to meet in an office. I do love having our face-to-face time, but that's just wonderful as a chief exec to know that I can find some talent that's miles and miles away, and it doesn't matter, because we can still connect and build a relationship through all these fantastic technological means.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think you bring up actually a really good point about the kind of community building side of it as well. My background actually, when I was really young, I ran like an online community for gamers, and it was kind of around a specific type of game. And you know, at the time I started it when I was 14 and brought it all the way up until I was 24. And throughout those 10 years, I was connecting with people from all around the world, having like this really, really tight-knit core kind of social groups that I was part of, and got so much out of that experience. And I mean, you're not going to be able to, I mean, similarly, I was in a really small town in Germany at the time. I definitely knew that I wasn't going to be able to walk, 10, 15 minutes down the road and meet anybody that was like that had those very specific interests. So, I mean, I think it is just a fantastic tool. And I think that kind of leads into the next question pretty well. Do you think that because of all of the advantages really of online communication and, kind of how the world is moving in that direction so rapidly, is it something that you actually feel is going to be really normal, like very normalized, I guess is a good way to say it, to just not necessarily do a lot of face-to-face activities anymore, events, friendships, connections in general. We see like, for example, Amazon and their delivery stuff. We see all the subscription services coming out. There's a lot of stuff that's compelling people to stay home and maybe not go out as much as before.
Yeah.
So I think it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on that.
So we've definitely shifted to where the common hangout place for young people now is online. So whereas I would go down the local youth club, and get my sweets and play pool and just hang out, that's now done online. My son comes home and he plays on his game, and he connects with his friends that way, and that's how, and they chat to each other, and he has a great time, and I listen, and he's having a great time, and they're laughing and joking, and they're learning, and they're strategizing, and all those brilliant things that you get with the game, and it's just different now, right? So it's about, doesn't necessarily mean it's worse, but it's just about equipping young people with the right tools to know when it's safe and when it's not safe. So a lot of young people now will feel more confident in communicating online than they will in person. But that's not to say they can't do both. It's just that they feel more confident that way. So I guess it's about getting a balance. And a really good example is the project that we're running at the moment, the Youth Ambassadors Project. So we've got 48 young people from across Sussex who are going to be online safety ambassadors in their schools. And they don't know each other. Some of them are from the same school, but they don't know each other because they're in different years. But predominantly, they're across like 15 schools, so they don't know each other. And when we got them together for the first time, you could see the different personalities of young people who, like those who are really, really confident and start chatting straight away, and the other ones who are a bit quiet who take a little bit more time. But what's happened is this beautiful bond between all of them, where they've really connected with each other, and you see them communicating and you think, oh my goodness, there's no difference to when I was a kid. Like, it doesn't look any different. Like, that, you would not think that group of, if you put that group of people in a room with a group of kids from the 90s, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So that there is that, and I think it's also about perception. So somebody said to me last night, it's wonderful to see these young people here tonight engaging with adults and talking to professionals and networking, as it were, because so often they get this sort of bad reputation that they can't do that because they're just solely on their screens now, and they've lost the art of communication, face-to-face communication. And last night that just blew that out the park, because every single one of them was engaging and having a good time and knew what to say and was asking questions and didn't seem fazed by it. And yeah, of course there'll have been a few that are. I get massively overwhelmed. Like, I have talk about my social battery. Like, I can't, once I've been in a room with a few more people, after about a certain time, I'm like, I need to go and be on my own for a bit, and I've always been like that. And so, and young, I was a young person once, and so young people, there will be young people like that can't sustain that face-to-face contact. So it's just, it's about balance, but it is different now. and we have shifted, and I can't say, oh, when I was young it was like this, because it is so vastly different. And maybe there's that less pressure when you're online, you know. And so it's just about encouraging those in-person skills, and I suppose championing them and reflecting that back to them, saying, oh, you know, you were really engaging tonight, it looked like you had a good time, and you know, and how did that feel? And just, yeah, doing that within your family as well, and having conversations at the dinner table, and encouraging that verbal and face-to-face interaction as much as you can, because you're not going to get them away from their screens.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think that's exactly where we landed, at least with the Academy as well, is, you know, like, obviously we noticed, okay, so, you know, around 90% of kids in the youth right now in the UK are all gaming. And, you know, there's this kind of general belief that, okay, well, my kid sat in front of a screen, so, you know, he's kind of just wasting his time, he's not building friendship, he's probably going to have social anxieties, and, you know, all the horrible things that come with that. And the reality is, I think, is a lot of times I think they're just missing the correct space for it. You know, we have a lot of kids that come in that, you know, are very, very shy, obviously, when they start. I mean, as any kid is when they come into a big room of a whole bunch of new people. But absolutely excel within like 10, 15 minutes, because it's just the environment that they want to be in. And that social element that the parents typically think isn't there at all just shines. Like it's completely 100% breaks through, and they're just there having a great time, loving it. So I do think it is a lot about like how you frame it and where exactly those social interactions are taking place. I mean, I think it is actually an interesting idea that like potentially the issue is because you can be so specific with who you want to hang out with now because of the virtual. You don't have to make do with the friends or the random people that you bump into when you go to school, but you can be really picky now, and you can be like, well, the people online, they really like the stuff that I like, and I love talking to them way more, so I'm just going to do that. Like, I mean, I know for a fact myself growing up, like, it was a small town, and there was a certain handful of people that I could hang out with because those were the people around. I didn't have that many other options, really. So now, I mean, I think you do actually contend with not necessarily the fact that they just don't have friends, but they're just in a different space, and they have a lot more options with it, really. Yeah. So I think, I mean, kind of already dipped our feet into it a little bit, but like I said, there's a bit of a belief that like kids online are going to be kind of isolated, that they're not really in the right space to, you know, kind of build friendships and be part of these communities and that sort of thing. I found a report, like a survey, however, that did say that 75% of kids reported connecting with friends through gaming, as opposed to, you know, some face-to-face environments anymore. And I was wondering, like, how should we shape how we talk about the virtual versus the face-to-face interactions? Like, obviously, we don't want to discount the fact that, you know, you can still go to your local club or play some sort of traditional sport, or, you know, meet at school. But I do think that there is some value in actually making sure that it's not all virtual, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And that you've hit the nail. It's about that, like the balance that we talked about earlier, and like what's the intention of it. So, and is it like is it quality time? So a child can absolutely go on and play Minecraft and, you know, build social bond, strategy, teamwork, that kind of thing, and have a great time, and it's really positive. And that looks different to us, or it looks different to a face-to-face interaction. But then it, you know, but that mindless kind of scrolling, where there's no real intention other than sort of like an addiction, really, like an addiction to, you know, just keep scrolling. That's when it tips into the more harmful. So it really is about sort of getting a balance and an intention, and making sure that when you are online and you are gaming and or whatever it is, or communicating that it's fun, that you're having, you're having a good time, that you're learning, you're, not in a boring like school way, but that you're that you're getting something from it and it's benefiting you.
Yeah, no, that's something that we focus on quite a bit as well. Is
Yeah.
we want to make sure that it's not just time where you sit in front of a computer and turn off your brain for a couple hours, but that it is something that you're really focusing on building something, or focusing on how you're kind of approaching that gaming time. And that makes the world of difference, when you turn the focus from, this is just something that I do that's kind of fun, that whatever, just gonna spend a couple hours on the game, to, oh, like I want to jump on the game with my friends, let's go into this next match with a certain strategy in mind, let's, after that does really well, or maybe it does really badly, like problem solve, like what can we do better next time, how can we improve on what we've done. It builds all like these really, really good team building skills, right? I mean, like that's exactly what you do at the office, right? You run an event, you figure out, oh, well, this went really well, but that was really bad. Next time we need to figure out, problem solve, work together as a team and find some solutions.
Yeah. I wholly believe that like my misspent youth on Zelda has helped me like learn to strategize and get myself out of situations and things, because it is all. And even now, like when I play like games where I've just got to like move a car, or maybe all the time I'm thinking this is fun, but I am actually training my brain to strategize and to be good at logistics. I'm all for it.
I feel like there's also like a degree of like this can-do attitude to it as well. Like I've noticed that sometimes when I'm going to like these different gaming conventions, you have some people that show up that are very, very new to gaming or haven't really interacted with stuff too much. This one interaction has stuck with me for like, I think it was 8-9 years ago now or something, but it just completely stuck with me because I think it's just such a perfect example. It was a friend, two friends together, and they were trying out this game. One person obviously never really played the game, didn't really game generally speaking. The other guy was new to the game as well, but had that background. You could kind of tell. And there was some sort of challenge that they had to get through. And the non-gamer friend was like trying it out first initially, right? He had the control. He's given a good college try, let's say, and like he just couldn't figure it out, and he got so frustrated. He was so annoyed and so angry, really, at the fact that he couldn't figure this out. And after like a minute or two, he was just like, I don't want, like, this is so, I can't deal with this. I'm walking away, like whatever. And the friend was like, no, you can't stop. Like we need to figure out what the solution is. We need to make this work. Like how are you just letting this go? Like it's a challenge and a problem that needs to be solved. We need to find the solution. And that's when it kind of struck me as like, that's exactly what my response would have been as well. Like, I wouldn't want to just let it lay and just kind of let it go, because I feel like I've had so many years of playing games now where it's like, I can't just let the challenge slip by. Like, gotta find that solution. And it's something that you start to see as well, like in the academy as well. Like, you have some kids that just, they have that kind of like can do, like I'm gonna figure this out and I'm not gonna let it rest until I do. And I think that's really, really good. I mean, like very encouraging for very young kids to just kind of manage through those challenges when they're so young already is incredible, really.
Yeah, and probably work together as well, like go having, because it's that thing I always remember, like, oh, have you got to level what's the face, or and how did you get there, or oh, so and so's got there, and so they help you and they tell you, oh, have you tried this or have you done that, and or you can go, there's the cheat websites and things like that, and the kind of person that would go and get a cheat from the cheat website and the kind of person that wouldn't. So it's like, yeah, it's like life played out in a game, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I guess a little bit back to what we were talking about with screen time. Do you feel like society might be overcorrecting actually with the kind of fear that is going around quite a bit around online interactions? I think there's kind of there's a certain portion of society that definitely, when they hear screen time, when they hear gaming, when they hear any of these types of terms, they immediately go to, oh, that's not good. That's definitely not what we want for my kid or for these kids, whatever. And do you think like, yeah, do you think that there's a bit of like a polarization happening there?
Definitely, there is. And I often think it's quite refreshing when I hear a parent or somebody talk about the positives of it. And I'm not saying like I do hear it, and when I go to sort of conferences and things like that, and I do my talk, but it's about, fear is often comes from a lack of education, like not a lack of education, but a lack of understanding. So fear can come from a lack of understanding of something. And so a fear of screen time is if a person is spending so much time, it's a fear of what could happen to them, or I've been told this is really bad and you have to stop, and I have to restrict this because it's really bad and something really bad will happen to you. And our foundation is founded, and the reason we're here is because something really, really terrible happened to someone who spent a lot of time on their game. And so it's really hard as a charity to have that, to still be really pro-tech. Like, we are really pro-tech, because what happened to Breck was so tragic and so terrible, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen to every child that goes online. And I think it's about understanding the risks and having a sort of really strong framework of parental guidance, like that the parents know what games you're playing, what games they're playing, what the parental controls are, and just having like the thought of safety at like the core of all their conversations with the children. Like, talk to your kids, find out what games they're playing, who they're interacting with, why they love it, what they're learning from it, and being safe in terms of like, so you wouldn't let a 5-year-old go off and play in a playground on its own, so it's about, that's when it becomes sort of scary. So the fear of, I know as a parent what might happen to my child if I let them run off and play in the playground on their own. So because I understand that fear, I've seen it play out, but so I'm not fearful of, because I wouldn't let it happen. But for a parent whose kid is going online and they're fearful, but actually don't really know and understand what it is that they're doing, and so therefore get more understanding, and it kind of breaks down that fear and makes you a bit more relaxed about it, because you understand that actually they're having a really good time. But that's not to say that there wouldn't be really harmful things, because gaming can be a gateway for predators to groom a child, for example. So we have to ensure that the safeguard and the protections are in place so that they are as safe as they possibly can be. And that's through, the platforms themselves having really good moderation, content moderation, age ratings, but the parents also making sure that their child is the right age to go onto that game, that they're not in a chat room talking to strangers, that they can't be tagged or friended by anyone, that they're not receiving in-game purchases or gifts from people, and that a child is really able to spot when somebody is trying to manipulate them or exploit them through language and stuff like that. So just if you equip yourself with all of the knowledge as possible, just like we learn how to ride a bike, or we learn how to cross the road, or we learn how to swim, so that if we get caught in a choppy water or something, that we'll be able to save our own lives because we've learned how to swim and we've learned how to tread water, and all of those things, those life skills you learn along the way to keep yourself as safe as possible. We're just transforming that into the online space, and we're doing that there. So it's as vital as jumping into a pool in your pajamas when you're 7 years old and learning how to pick up a brick off the floor. This is, if not more important to learn, because it's very likely that child is going to be going online rather than jumping into a pool in their pajamas, if you know what I mean.
Well, and I think, you make a fantastic point. I think also when you think about it too, like you have player bases of millions and millions of people connecting to these different applications going on online matches. So I think it becomes even more vital when you think about it like that. Like, would you want your kid to be sent by themselves into a room with like potentially a million other people? Like, obviously
Exactly.
not. Like, you would want to make sure that there was some sort of safeguard there to ensure that they were kind of interacting with other people in that space in a very safe, kind of controlled environment. And it's one of those things that even when you launch the games, they tell you, like, here are the ratings for the game, but we're not taking any responsibility for online interactions
Yeah,
because they can't
yeah,
control that, you know?
they can't. No,
Um,
no, they can't.
so it is, I think it's a really, really important aspect that just a lot of parents, I think, need to be aware of, and just kind of a know of the different tools at their disposal. I mean, obviously, you guys offer a lot of fantastic tools. I think, we also highlighted it recently in one of our Mastering the Meta newsletters. We were talking about just the different tools that they put into like Epic Games to make sure that they're interacting with and how they can interact with other people online. So, who can they speak to? Who can they text to? Also, like, what are they able to buy? Which is a
Yeah,
really big one. Like, make sure you have like your pins set up on the thing, and they're not buying all the stuff that's popping up on their
yeah,
screen. So,
yeah.
I think there's a lot of stuff that's actually out there that can help them out quite a bit.
Yeah,
Um,
there's so much. It can be quite overwhelming, can't it? So it's just finding the right place, and that's why I like websites like ours and yours and other organizations that really are out there to help parents navigate that parental control minefield.
Super, super useful. So yeah, just off of what we were just talking about, right? So I think we kind of talked about it a little bit, kind of touched on it quite a bit, but I think there's overall just a bit of a tug of war between like kind of the gaming time ruining everything, and actually something that we get quite a bit is actually gaming and esports and all of this kind of digital tech stuff is going to be my kid's entire life. Um, we get some parents that come in that are very, very adamant, that want them to do all this crazy stuff. And I think sometimes, obviously you can overstep in that regard as well, obviously. Um,
Mm,
and I think, when we're talking about it, like I said earlier, about 90% of kids are playing games nowadays. And research typically shows that, sometimes you see a lot more kind of gaming related addictions, you get social anxieties more, there's issues obviously over the digital abuse that we were mentioning earlier, and then at the same time a lot of research does also show actually it's great for communication, time management, this kind of can-do attitude we were speaking about earlier. So it makes it kind of difficult when you look at both of those sides and say, okay, so which one of them is right? And I think really the thing that might be the case is that there's probably a pretty good, grounded, more middle path to both of these. So I'd like to hear, like, what are your thoughts on that?
So I think, for a young person, if you're online, like if you kind of be thinking in your back of your mind, like, is this a useful, use of my time? Is it creative? Is it, collaborative? Am I learning stuff? Am I making friends? Am I having a good time? Right? Or is it like repetitive? Like you're not really engaged, you're not really present, it's quite passive. Or like you might feel like it's quite isolating. So I think that those are the things to sort of check in with yourself. And like for parents, we always encourage parents and carers and teachers, educators, anyone around a child really to sort of be curious, not critical. So that interrogation mode, like what are you doing, why are you doing it, but just actually being curious and interested, like you would be if you were interested in what friends your children had, or who's the play date that you're going to, what's the connection there, why do you like them, what do we said like, oh, what do your friends think about you, like what would they say about you, or why do you like your mate Toby, what's great about them. So it's just about sitting down and getting curious and getting interested. And I think to see that, to get that real oversight of whether it's risky or whether it's positive and meaningful time is not a bad thing. It adds something, like it doesn't deplete, it adds something. So, but if somebody becomes, it's like looking out for those warning signs that if your child becomes secretive, for example, secretive about their online life. So maybe they shut their phone down, or they've changed their passcode if you've got access to it, if that's how you're set up in your family home, or it's interrupting their sleep. So they're you may be a parent that lets their child have their phone on them overnight, and therefore they're not getting sleep because they're doom scrolling. So that's negative, right? That's a negative. You shouldn't be. I mean, I say that. I look at my screen before I go to bed. I'm terrible for it, but I know I shouldn't. But I'm an adult and I can make my own choices. And I think it's about looking out for those warning signs. That is it really impacting them? Mood shifts, for example, and mood shifts aside from the mood shifts that one expects in, a child or a teenager. So yeah, just really looking out for that. And like you say, finding that middle ground. So having that balance. So making sure that your child is involved in extracurricular activities like outdoor stuff, like whether that be sport or theatre or, dance, music, anything to do with the arts or crafts, or anything where they can be creative with their hands and their feet, or anything like that, where it's not all about everything on the screen, and then should hopefully get that healthy balance, because you're absolutely right, like so much good can come from communicating with someone and playing games and strategizing and learning, like you say, teamwork skills and time management and logistics. So yeah, finding that balance, being curious and not critical.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's kind of the same deal for us. Like, even for our gaming sessions, like, one of the first things that we do when we have them sit down is, obviously, naturally, you put a computer screen in front of a kid and, they're looking at the screen. So as soon as we start the class, we make them all turn around. They look, kind of inwardly towards the coach. He goes over, like, what we're going to be focusing on, what we're going to be teaching today. And then the first thing we do is we get out of our chairs, we do a stretch, like we physically warm up a little bit first, get out of the chairs, do that sort of thing. And then after that, we can sit down and we can start focusing on what we're doing online. And that's typically like straight into kind of this very focused training. Like we just talked about what the goals are and what we want to achieve today. So now let's actually focus on how we're going to do that. And then the live play comes a little bit later. So I think it's very like kind of teaching this very, as we mentioned earlier, like a very, focused approach to it. Like you're really going into it with a certain goal in mind, with a certain skill set that you're going to kind of grow during each session. And I think that's just something that's really, really useful. I mean, as you mentioned, like I think at a certain point, obviously you're an adult, you make your own decisions. You can go to sleep with your phone next to you. You can, stay up really late. You can eat junk food, whatever. Myself, I definitely do game a little bit, and yeah, I'm not necessarily going into it with the same, problem-solving mindsets and this urge to grow my skill set maybe every single night. But I think for kids, when it's such a big part of what they want to do and something that they really just enjoy and they spend so much time in it. Like I saw a few statistics recently where it's like 3 to 4 hours per day is what they're spending online in front of screens. Like I don't spend that much time in front of my screen playing games, And I think that's where you have to start thinking, all right, like if they're going to spend that much time, they should do it in a more resourceful and more focused manner that's more conducive to helping them. And I think another aspect is, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, is who you're playing with as well. Like I think it's sometimes difficult, I think, for somebody to understand who hasn't been in one of these gaming lobbies or in an online match before. But one player out of 16 or even 60, just sitting there being really negative, saying really mean things, just being a total, a horrible person to everybody, can turn that entire lobby of like 60 people into this horrible environment where everyone's just angry and annoyed at each other and all saying really mean things to each other. And I think, as an addition to that, because so much happens in the virtual world now, and this is such a big focus of their lives, as I mentioned, it becomes the way that they want to interact. Like, they see this and they think, oh, well, that's normal. That's how people interact here. So that's what I'm going to start imitating myself. And I think that's one of those things too that, we definitely at the Academy really, really try to cut back on is, like, you don't come in here and you say these really, really mean things to your teammate, and, like, this is supposed to be constructive. It needs to be problem solving. It needs to be focused. Like, you're a team. You can't just turn around and blame everybody else for everything, And I think that is one of those things that people that are online a lot don't necessarily learn actually very well, because there is no consequence to that interaction, right? You can keep saying that and, nobody's ever going to sit there and say, hey, you can't, So I think it's one of those pitfalls that's really important to focus on.
Absolutely. And I talked to a few sort of professionals in this sort of gaming world, gaming sector, the business, and they talk about that toxic behavior on their platforms, and how there's very strict guidelines that any toxic behavior will be called out and stuff, but what is the real punishment? Like, some people, I believe it or not, can get like banned or have time out and things like that, but actually there's no real world consequence to it. And I think you're absolutely right. Like, it's a place for people to play out the behavior that they wouldn't get away with in the real world. So we have to learn early on that it goes both. You just can't do that just because you can't be seen, or you're behind a keyboard, and call out that toxic behavior. And one bad apple, as it were, could turn the whole group.
Yeah, and I think that's where it's really important. Like, when they're entering these online spaces, do that with at least a handful of people that in person that aren't going to be like that aren't going to allow you to kind of get enveloped in this really toxic environment. I know for myself, like, I grew up obviously playing games with my brothers, but that's kind of just maintained. Like, I really don't like getting online actually by myself, because you just have all these really like annoying people shouting at each other and whatever. Most of the time I'm getting on after work, I don't want to deal with that. Like,
no, you're there for a good time, aren't you? You don't want to be listening and reading that. It's like when you take time out, like I'll take time out sometimes from social media or things, because some of the hate and the things that people say, and I'm like, wow, I just, you forget, because in your bubble or world of friends or professionals or family and stuff, you don't hear that stuff, and then you go online and you hear it, and it's like, wow, there are people in the world actually that think like that, not only think like that, but actually say it out loud with real venom and and anger, and it can really trigger you or impact you. So for a child going on that site and reading that and not being able to regulate whether that is normal or not, the right thing to say, so they're learning that, like say, learning that behavior, learning that language from people outside of the family environment, where you're trying to nurture a child and teach them right and wrong and how to be kind to people and all of that. And so they don't hear any of that negativity at home or within their family unit or their friends, but then they go online and they hear it, and it's like, whoa, So yeah, absolutely, there are real difficult and challenging experiences that people are having online. So it's just about balancing and preparing a young person, preparing your child that they may read stuff or hear stuff, and if they do, that's not okay, and to be able to get a step away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I think just to kind of close out, one of the things that I thought would be kind of a fun bit of practice and yeah, I guess insight from your end is, what would you say is kind of a quick piece of encouragement? We just kind of focus so much on like, ooh, the dangers and the million people in the rooms that you're sending your kids into and all the horrible things, right? So what is kind of a lighthearted, encouraging thought that you've seen for parents when it comes to that, like kind of that correct screen time balance that we've been talking about so much?
Really just that you're not alone, like that everyone's trying to figure it out. And the great thing at the moment is that we're all talking about it a lot more than we were. And I don't think that's just because I'm in this world. Like I see it playing out in the media and, you know, in the government and all that kind of stuff. People are really talking about it and naming it, and schools are addressing it. And I think you're not alone. We're all trying to figure it out. And the fact that you're trying to figure it out means you're doing a good job. And just, you know, ask your child what they think is a good amount of time to be on the screen, you know, and think like progress, not perfection. So like, you know, every step is a way forward, and you're never going to get it totally right. I've tried no screen days before and I can't do it. Like I just struggle to do it. So like, you know, so I think we're all human, and we've got so used to our devices and the way that we communicate that just give yourself a break and reach out to people who potentially can help you navigate it a bit better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's perfect way to finish it off. And I appreciate the time. And it was really helpful to kind of go through all these different topics with you. And appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks, Andrew. It's been really great. Good luck with everything. I think it's brilliant what you're doing at the Academy. So yeah, long may it continue.
All right, awesome.
Take care.